Okay, what up, gang? Today I am on a mission. I am trying to get all of my workflows done through Claude Code. I really find Claude Code to be the most efficient tool, not just for coding, but for doing a lot more, especially because now we have web search and we can use MCPs in Claude, and really you could get all of your work done in Claude Code. And I think it's highly efficient if you set this up right. But I've been experimenting with it for a while, and I'm going to kind of, start from the beginning and see how we can make it work. So really the big thing here is using Obsidian. Obsidian is just kind of like a front-end renderer for your markdown files. So you have a folder with a bunch of markdown files in it, and it renders them as these nice notes here. As you can see, you have CRM trackers, daily notes. I could have folders with stuff in it, yada, yada. Since Claude Code can access your files, you could actually use Claude Code to manage your Obsidian. And what's awesome about that is that because it's just a series of files, it's just a series of notes, Claude could use this for context, for doing everything that you have Claude do. You could have Claude write new notes, read from notes, use these notes as context when doing other tasks. But to do this efficiently does take a little bit of setup and strategy. So the first big thing with Claude Code, if you haven't used it before, is setting up your claude.md file, which is all the instructions for Claude. And we have a really good opportunity today because I messed up. I did not have good enough instructions in my claude.md file. My last session with Claude, I had asked Claude to clean up my to-do list. Now, one of the things about Claude Code is that Claude Code has its own to-do list. And if you are working in a project, it's really great because Claude will check these to-dos and keep on task with them. The problem is that this to-do list doesn't persist from session to session. So if you quit Claude Code, or you feel like the context window is too much and you want to start a new session, the problem is that you do lose those tasks. And so I had asked Claude to clean up my task list, but I did not specify correctly within this claude.md file and in my instruction to Claude at the time that the task list that should be the main task list is the one that I have listed here. And instead, Claude took all the tasks that we had, put it in its own to-do list, and got rid of a bunch of tasks that I had listed here, and kind of created this as a reference. And I actually wanted the reverse. I wanted this to be the main one and the reference to be Claude's to-do list. So we're going to start not quite from scratch here, but we're going to work with Claude to kind of fix this problem, and you're going to see the whole kind of setup process and what we go through here. And quickly, just before that, I'll show you, I have been doing this for some time, and you can see there is a lot of content here, a lot of instruction for Claude to know where things are, but this might have not been clear enough here, and Claude, unfortunately, the to-do retools are the primary way Claude should, and that's the problem here. I had this note, and I had Claude write that note at some point, and that kind of screwed things up. So I'm going to fix that. I'm going to get my task list up, and you're going to be able to see kind of the whole workflow that I go through working with Obsidian. So let's get started. So the first thing I did, I opened up a terminal, command space, terminal. That's going to pop up this window here, and we're starting in the root. So we're going to say, we're going to get into the desktop, and then my Obsidian lives in a notes folder. So I'm going to cd notes, and then inside that is my vault called Shoshin Codex, and I'm going to cd into Shoshin Codex. So now we are inside my notes directory. You'll notice that these things match, and I'm going to activate Claude Code just by typing Claude. All right, cool. So you can see I have one MCP server that's failed to connect. We'll get into that in a bit, but now, we're going to get to work on fixing this claude.md file. So I'm going to say, hey Claude. So the last time we chatted, I made a mistake. I instructed you to update our to-do list, but it seems we got confused between to-do list and our task list here in Obsidian. What we need to do is update our claude.md instructions to make sure the primary to-do/task list is the task.md file that we have in the root of our vault. Your to-do list tool should be the reference tool. Apparently, we have the opposite instructions listed. Can we fix that? So now, Claude is going to interpret that. Yes, now Claude is reading Claude.md file, and probably going to fix this. So I have just so much stuff in here too, and I'm thinking maybe it makes sense to reduce this down. Okay, so now Claude is going to update this. The red is the things they're deleting, green is new. Yeah, primary to do, exactly. Okay, so we're going to say yes, and don't ask again. I like Claude to just get to work. Okay, great. So that's updated. I also want to simplify our claude.md file. It is very, well, I'm concerned it may be confusing you. Let's create a new claude.md file. Well, claude v2.md for now. Let's start with the most important information. Primarily, I would like to, let's see. this file as a set of instructions and references, references to other notes and instructions that essentially tell you if this, then that. So for example, if I am asking you to help me work on a task that relates to client work, you should always reference the, I think it's here, agency 42 client folder or that client before working on the task. So now we're going to wait for Claude to essentially create this new file for us. And we're going to be a little more careful about it. And we're going to try and get this a little more simplified so it's easier for Claude to interpret every time that we're working and not get confused. Okay, picking up where we left off in this Claude v2.md file that we're going to be using, Claude went ahead and created this core decision tree. I really love to let Claude just kind of run with things and review it and see what it comes up with. Like this decision tree aspect of kind of thinking through how we're going to solve different problems is great. So basically how we set this up is now Claude is saying, it's using this if this, then that kind of formula for thinking about which files it needs to reference. So rather than just simply having a bunch of instructions in here, we're telling Claude, if we're organizing daily work, structured this way, energy levels, morning, creative, afternoon meetings, evening, admin, and processing weekly logs, and this is something that I do weekly. So every week, let's say I'm joining a meeting right now and I'm like, all right, I got to write some notes down. So I'm going to do Command N to open up a new page. And I'm going to be like, I have this plugin for, Obsidian, which you should also get, for using times. So today, yesterday, and I could do, I think, time now, and I could get that time, bullet, give it a title, my meeting. Some notes here, notes, some other stuff, whatever we're writing. It could be super sloppy. And what I'm going to tell Claude to do is I'm going to be like, hey, Claude, let's try organizing our notes now and doing some cleanup based off our Claude v2.md5. And I'm just going to add a little please note I have a test note up for today. So you can't see how this works, but otherwise run through your normal organization process. Now, this is something you're going to want to define however you like to organize things. So you can see here, I have 2 archive folders, which I'll have to have Claude clean up, but a bunch of different folders here that Claude knows to put things in. So I could have these daily notes, and I might have a log of the things that I'm working on, and Claude knows, okay, I should add to daily logs, and I should create these weekly summaries of things that I did. And this is great because I can always go back and reference what I've been doing, and my ADHD brain really needs that. Claude will create new notes on meetings. Claude will tag new people, new clients, new companies that I interact with for me. So it's really great, but you have to give Claude that instruction. And so if we're going back to our previous Claude file, like we have all this organizational structure for notes. So Claude.md, tasks, our CRM, which is our relationship management, all the work that I'm doing and how that goes in here, personal stuff, finance, content, knowledge. So it knows how to organize that, right? And Claude's even got its own notes, which it can use to look at insights, as a scratch pad to know different things, keep certain memories down, and it's all like reference for Claude. So daily task organization is just instructions for how Claude should organize different things, how to do note cleanup, how to do task extraction, timesheet processing, contact management. There's all instructions for all these things. And over time, you can kind of just like figure out how you want things done. Ask Claude to do something. Say, oh, I didn't really like how you did that. Let's go ahead and add this new instruction into your Claude.md. So going forward, you do it this way. And if I scroll down to the bottom here, there's some collaboration guidelines of how Claude should work. And there's a lot of stuff that gets added here over time. So it does help to go back on what we're doing now, clean up this file so it's easier for Claude to interpret it. And it doesn't take up as much of the context window. So Claude gets everything it needs rather than accidentally just getting a chunk of the file and missing something important. So here's like these note templates of how I want Claude to do, my weekly summaries, my daily logs, weekly timesheets. It's all here. And so I'm going to now, after I tell Claude to do this cleanup, we're going to see what happens as Claude cleans up these files. So I'll organize the notes using our new Claude v2.md instructions. Let me start by checking the current task list and recent daily logs to understand what they need to do. Update to-dos, check tasks, review recent daily logs, process and organize notes, extract tasks and update tasks, and update the CRM. So, okay, cool. It's doing all this stuff. Great. I can see the test note for today needs proper formatting. Let me check. Okay, cool. So it's like noticing there's the test note. It's adding stuff to the daily log. If we go into our logs, we could see, okay, we have all these daily logs. I don't want to see that. But it's 2024, 2025. Yeah, it's been a little bit. I've been away. But you could see stuff gets added here kind of like in that way that we wanted it. Okay. So cool. Claude is organizing things how we like. Now, there's a few more things that I want to do here. So as Claude continues to go and update tasks.md, let's check that out. Nice. It's updating all this stuff for us. This is really good. So what I want to do, emergency reference. If completely lost, check recent logs, daily log entries for context. If client context needed, look for camera files or project files. If unsure about Ken's preferences, check Claude memory folder. Okay. So what I want Claude to do now is I want Claude to compare this to our previous file, and I want Claude to essentially go through the things that we have in there and think with me about ways that we could organize this better. So I'm going to say, okay, great. The next thing I would like to do is go through the previous Claude.md file and compare it to what we have now. I'd like to go through the items and decide together if they should be either A, added to the new version, B, consolidated into the new version so it is less redundant, and C, created as a new reference node rather than keeping it all in this file. For example, we may want templates for node organization to live in your Claude notes folder to be referenced rather than taking up all the space in the Claude.md file. So let's see what Claude's going to come up with here for us. Comparing, here's our token counts. Okay, perfect. I can see exactly what we need to consolidate. Here's my analysis of what to do with each section from the original Claude.md. Already in, about Ken, simplify, task management, key reference files should be added, organization structure, there's essential, file naming conventions, should be moved to the Claude folder, all templates, weekly organization process, Claude collaboration guidelines, daily task organization. Redundant, remove Ken's detailed background, detailed folder explanations. Let's add everything to Claude v2.md, and once that is in there, you can rename it and remove the old version. Before you do that, though, make sure you create all the necessary template files and you have your references correctly labeled. Okay, so Claude's going to create all the necessary template files. And you see how Claude's used this to-do list to go through the current process that we're in. That is how I want Claude to use its to-do list, not as the main to-do list, because that should be like a kind of like active, like short-term memory kind of system, where our task list is more of like a long-term memory kind of task list where we keep everything. So while Claude is working on that, one thing we could do is I could kind of show you like how these systems are pretty beneficial. So since I'm not doing any node organization, Claude's doing it all, I could kind of just go in and now say, okay, let's test out our system. Can you tell me what I was working on in the month of May? So now Claude is checking all of my daily logs. Now that doesn't feel actually necessary because we have weekly summaries, and that might be a gap in our instructions. Okay, so we may have a gap in our instructions because we probably could have just looked at weekly summaries rather than daily logs. Don't you think? You're absolutely right. I should have checked the weekly summaries. If you're looking at our conditional, check daily log entry. Yes. So over longer periods of time, yes, is a perfect example. You should add this to your MD. But even though I'm saying that, it did work. It did mention all the things that I've been working on, which is really cool. And this is just a really, really great way to keep on top of your life. It's like an external memory system. And if you set this up right, this can be really, really, really powerful. Cool. I just wanted to do some final cleanup. I noticed there are two archive. One is archive and one is archive. Can we consolidate? So I'm asking Claude to consolidate that, and while Claude does that, I would also like you to review some of our other files. For example, and I noticed this before, in the MCP folder, we have a clients folder with some clients, and we also have some client pages in there. I think those client pages should be consolidated into their respective places in the clients folder. And then from here, yes, you should proceed with this. Okay, so we're just doing some final cleanup here. Cool. Claude is now checking the MCP folder. Yeah, see, there are several client pages that should be consolidated. All those should be in the respective folders. That's right. Claude's getting it. Cool. Consolidation complete. So yeah, I mean, like, this is how I like to work now. And my mission is going to be to get all of my work into this process. And I think that's going to be really hyper efficient, especially when I get into coding and other things where all the context for my projects, my clients, and everything that you would want to know, all those things that are in your head when you do work on things can eventually get into here. And that will allow Claude to have the most up-to-date and best context for doing other things and automating other things that I'd want Claude to do. So next time we're going to take that next step into integrating their systems. So I talked about MCPs. One of the main systems my team uses to share notes and keep up to date with tasks and other things is Notion. So what I want to do is integrate the Notion MCP with Claude Code and start to have those two note databases now be talking to each other. Hopefully being able to both read from Notion and write to Notion and vice versa, like we could do with Obsidian. So we could bridge those gaps between what my team is doing and what the individual work that I have on my plate. And that's all that's happening, and all the context for that's in my Obsidian. Cool. Till next time.